Thank you all for coming today. Welcome to The Pillars. We are a community led space aimed at supporting projects and educating our investors through intelligent, meaningful conversation. Here we ask the tough questions you all want answered. Now, let me introduce to you, first of all, the people that we have up on stage. Um, you guys definitely already know them if you are part of our community and are active in here. We have our Pillars portfolio partner, AJ, here, and of course, Jake from Dex Finance, as you can see from his name. But these two guys are here today to talk to us about a new project that has just launched a couple of days ago. And first of all, I just want to point out this is our first project on this chain on Manta Network. So already there's something exciting to it just on the basis of that. But also, this is a quite interesting token that, of course, utilizing the Manta network, is utilizing the ERC-404 token standard. And MadHatter will probably go into that to explain or to ask what that's about. But to let me give you guys a quick rundown what AJ and Jake are here for to present. These guys are here to talk about their new project, Ceto Swap, which is a DEX with different kind of utilities and reward structures to it. Also utilizing, for example, the vaults from Dex Finance that you already know. They have a bridge. They also have an airdrop, and of course, they are utilizing the ERC-404 token standard as an integral part of their ecosystem. I'm going to share the docs right in a second once I'm off the stage in the community questions channel, so you guys can read along. And yeah, as you can also see, we have a $50 giveaway as per usual, which will happen at some point during the CE. But I want you guys also to engage, and of course, you have to join the Ceto Swap Discord. Other than that, I hope everyone enjoys, and I hope we don't have any technical difficulties today. So take care. Bye bye.
The kiss of death, David. Thank you very much for the intro, but the last part was the kiss of death. I hope we don't have any technical difficulties. Means we're absolutely going to have some technical difficulties, I imagine. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming back in. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having us, man. we got some really interesting stuff to talk about today.
Yeah, for sure, MadHatter. Always a pleasure, brother. And I feel like we say it every time, but we're just extensions of the Pillars team at this point. It feels like, brother. Yeah.
Yes, you definitely are, and we like it that way. It's always a pleasure to have you guys in. It's always a great conversation. So let's kick it off, but let's kick it off in a slightly different way. Normally, I'd ask you to give me a bit of an overview on the Ceto Swap, what it does, how it works, etc. But first, I'd like to start with the ERC-404, what that means, and why people should be bullish about what it is that you guys have done on Manta with that.
For sure. So, you want me to jump in, Jake? I know you've been doing all these. Yeah, bro. I feel like the roles are reversed here. You're becoming a better AMA train conductor than I am. So, but yeah, I'll jump in real quick, and then I'll let Jake go a little bit more into the technical end. But once the 404 standard is a new basically a way to give NFTs liquidity. And, this has only been around for about, I don't know, 2 months maybe. And it's very revolutionary. And Jake and I had been brainstorming as soon as this new standard came out, and it really solved a lot of the integral problems with NFTs. Because, admittedly, and I know Jake says this all the time, but we're not fans of NFTs that don't have utility. And, even with our own projects, individually, Jake has never done an NFT. We have it at EMP, but we've always done it where the NFTs actually produce yield or have some sort of, inherent value other than the collectability. Well, that's great, and that's the power of an NFT. But the major downfall of an NFT is its illiquidity, meaning you have to have somebody buying it to get out of it. And we've seen that happen now. Bored Apes is a great example. At one point, $1 million for a Bored Ape, you now can barely sell them for, tens of thousands. So it really has been a major issue. And the 404 structure solves this. So what it is, just at a very high level overview, it's basically a cross between a token and an NFT. And so as long as you have one full token, you automatically are minted one full NFT, and vice versa. If you sell a fraction of your token where you no longer have one integer or round number, then you no longer have that NFT in your wallet. And so it really streamlines the liquidity process. And as Jake will get to the details, we took all of this even 10 steps further and really integrated even more code around the power of 404s. Specifically, I'm excited about the what we call the taxing or reflections of the 404s, which Jake can get into. But I think there's about 4 or 5 different things that we've now added to the 404 that has had some incredible success. And then you couple that on top of burning Ceto, which is the reward token of the exchange, and we're really starting to see some fireworks. So yeah, I'll let you chime in, Jake.
No, I think that was a pretty good overview. The only thing I would say is I'm almost not even sure we can call it a 404 at this point. It for sure has a similar
For sure.
mechanics. But yeah, we like you said, we've definitely taken it a few steps further. Added in the reflection taxes, some different kind of security patches, and the original 404s were really great. They solved this major need in the space. I feel like. Which is why it kind of interested us. The NFTs in general, like you mentioned, AJ. They're if they have a purpose and they're paying yield, like there's nothing wrong with that. Like I mean, like a good example of that is like every concentrated liquidity farm you're in. Those are what those actually are just NFTs. They don't have silly images on them, but they function. It's just a purely functional NFT. So we kind of liken it to some of that stuff where like. These are NFTs, and it does kind of bring this other aspect of like gamification, which is great to get get hype and get people interested in it. But it also does serve a really good purpose for the DEX as well.
I think what's interesting is that you obviously have Spark Swap that you're associated with, and the second that you saw this come out, your brain started rattling, not towards what you can implement that already exists but do better with, but how you can make something that's truly unique. And that's what I like about you guys. While innovating and building out, it's to bring unique stuff to it. How quickly, when you started reading up on this, did you realize actually we can implement this into a DEX? And we're going to get into how Ceto Swap works, but we can implement this into a DEX, and we can throw in some mechanics here that won't be seen elsewhere and really be front runners, especially on Manta. So we can really start to, eat up some of those eyeballs, get people looking at us first, and therefore really be a mainstay within that network.
I can feel this one. It was something that we, like AJ mentioned, we definitely saw this 404 come out, and figured it was a nice wave to ride, I guess. You kind of hit it on the head. We never really like to just fork something and put it out just because we can. Typically, especially with brand new tech, this stuff is like bleeding edge. The 404, the very first 404 just came out like 2 months ago, and had like massive success. I mean, if you look at the Pandora, was the first one. They started a similar launch price, and they were trading upwards of 20,000 plus for a long time, but with almost zero utility, right? So we knew that anything we did was going to have some kind of utility. We wanted to make it functional as opposed to just being there for no reason. And like you mentioned, when we first started even talking about the DEX in general, we knew that we needed some kind of anti-deflationary mechanism, because we've all seen that before. We've gone down that road. We didn't want to just be another yesterday's story, story in the newspaper. We really needed something, and you're right. We did use, we took some inspiration from SparkSwap in their Sparkler. That's had a lot of great success. So we wanted to do something similar, but not, maybe not, again, not exactly the same. And this 404 really just kind of hit, checked off all the boxes for us.
Are you guys, as it currently stands, finding it a challenge to talk about the 404 in terms of people's understanding of what it is and how innovative it is and the possibilities? And therefore, does that make it difficult to frame a story and a narrative around Ceto Swap?
I think it's definitely a lot to take in on the surface, right? So, I appreciate you guys posting the documentation. Even after an hour-long chat, you guys are all going to have questions still, I'm sure. Most will be able to be answered in the documentation. More in the chats. We're all happy to discuss at length. But I think like the results maybe speak for themselves, right? Like telling people that we burned over 1.8 million out of like 2.5 million supply, right? Like we literally burned like more like 3/4 of the supply in like less than 2 or 3 days. You know what I mean? Like I think those kind of numbers kind of speak for themselves and lend enough intrigue, you know what I mean, to get people excited about it and to learn more.
Great. And AJ, from your perspective, what is it like, obviously having something like SparkSwap and then moving into this with such new technology in this space? Is it difficult for you when you're trying to kind of get across to people just how innovative it is?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, and again, this kind of arcs back to why this relationship, now that, Dex Finance and EMP and Spark, all of our core products, now that we're essentially merged, it really arcs back to really putting together the dream team. And that's what gets me really excited is because with the, communicative skills and marketing skills that we bring, again, back to your original question about the education piece and just really educating people about 404s or whatever the new tech is, that's where we excel. And from Jake and Dex Finance side, they have the most incredible devs in the business. And so we've been able to really scale tremendously. And, I think people have this kind of tribalism a little bit still of like, why, let's all focus on EMP. Let's all focus on Spark. Let's all focus on Dex. Well, really, it's not really about that. It's about building the infrastructure. And I know it's been a reoccurring theme on a lot of our talks here in the pillars specifically, but it's about building this mothership. And
Right.
to your point, Mad Hatter, it makes the tech that we keep bringing forward. It makes it stronger. Every iteration that we bring forward is the next step closer to really solving true DeFi issues that we're seeing. We're not forking. Like Jake said, we took a lot of inspiration from Sparkler, and now that we're launching this on Ceto, we can learn from what works and what doesn't work with Ceto and bring that back to Spark, and now make all the protocols even more powerful. And that's really what gets me excited because we're seeing it happen in real time. And again, to Jake's point, the numbers don't lie. I mean, we say that a lot that we don't like to just come up here and speak fluff. We like to show what's happening, and the fact that with these 404s, the prices have gone up on the NFT themselves. The supply is burning. All the APRs in the farms have only gone up, and we're really making a name for ourselves already just within the first few weeks on Ceto with on Manta Network, just like we did with Spark on Pulse. So
Right.
it's exciting for sure.
I can imagine it's very exciting. And of course, the more eyeballs that you get on any network or chain, the more you can bring across to the entire ecosystem as a whole. And I think you said something very interesting there, AJ, which is that, you are able to learn from Ceto Swap and bring that into Spark. A lot of people, I'm certain, screamed immediately, "Oh, you're releasing something new. Why are you trying to release something new? Why are you not focused on the things that we already have? We want to see those succeed. We don't want new things." But actually, this is a real opportunity for the learning to be a two-way street. And what goes in one direction should also come back in the other direction. And that should be bullish for anybody who is really enjoying your ecosystems, because they should know that whatever you are learning, you're only going to be able to bring to something like SparkSwap. So with that said,
100%.
let's get into let's get into Ceto Swap. What is it? Can somebody give me a bird's eye view of what it is? How does it work? And crucially, while we're all here, of course, how do we make money?
Yeah, so you want to go, Jake? Sorry, bro. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take that one. You know, the base layer of Ceto Swap is not all that different than some other, you know, other exchanges that you've been kind of involved in. You know, it's a pretty standard format where, you know, we're creating a liquidity hub where, you know, people can provide liquidity for both native pairs, blue chips, you know, alike, and earn emissions, right? You know, we decided to go to Manta for several reasons. You know, obviously, they are one of the newer chains. They use some of the Celsia TIA's data availability, which is, you know, kind of nerdy stuff, but enables them to operate at like 99% efficiency. You know, so it's a good chain in general. You know, and obviously there's not a ton of infrastructure there quite yet. So, you know, we're already, you know, we've been about the third largest DEX on there over the past couple of days. You know, with the new 404. So there's a lot of reasons why we went there. And like I said, at the base level, it's very similar to other exchanges, right? You provide liquidity, and for that you get rewarded in emissions, right? The couple things that we do, you know, kind of differently, it makes us different, is you know, right out of the bat, because of, you know, the aforementioned kind of we call them franchises, right? Things like the exchanges we have on Pulse, the SparkSwap, and even the stuff that we're doing on Arbitrum and some other exchanges, right? We're now able to come to like pretty much any chain we want and set up one of these, you know, franchises, quote unquote, and not only just have a DEX, right? But we also have, you know, bridges, and we have vaults, and we have arbitration bots, and perpetual futures now, and like, you know, so we're able to bring a lot of substance to anywhere we go, right, really quickly. You know what I mean? Which right off the bat we have an advantage over. So that's a really big selling point, because you're not only just on an exchange, you're on now kind of a whole ecosystem where, you know, you're on Manta, sure, but you're also able to bridge through our system. You're able to, you know, vault and do all this other stuff, right? So it's really kind of end to end, which gives us an advantage. But then, you know, now with the inclusion of the 404, it brings a really unique aspect to the project where, you know, not only are you able to farm, but you can also now earn in like the real yield of the protocol, right? So each of our revenue streams now is directly tied back to these 404s, and, you know, I'm sure we can get into some of the real nitty gritty, but you know, the end result is, you know, like we just mentioned, you know, over 3 days we burned like literally 3/4 of the supply of the emissions token, right? So, you know, basically there's not even any, like, you'd have to break your LPs now to sell. Like there's no more tokens to sell that aren't in the LPs. Almost all the tokens in circulation are now in the LPs, right? As opposed to just emitting and getting dumped on. And those are all converted now into the 404s. And the 404s themselves now are paying like 5% daily, which is also crazy. You know, after only a few days. So we really kind of found the system where, you know, not only are we like reducing supply of emissions, but we're also adding additional revenue streams and other tokens where you can also earn on.
Talk to me a bit more, AJ, about that burning and what it looks like for you, and the ideas that rattle around when you then think about what's happening here and how that might implement or be able to be implemented into something like SparkSwap. And I'm not going to make this about SparkSwap. I'm making it about the mechanics that you guys have got here and what makes them so unique, and what you're going to want to draw from to put into the projects that you now already have and built out, because they're so bullish.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think it is important that, you know, we do arc back to Sparkler, because that is kind of what, you know, pun intended, sparked it all. And so, yeah, I mean, we obviously, and Jake and I, again, this is such it's funny how it all comes full circle after, you know, 2 years in the space. And it's funny, we both swore to each other that we would never, you know, have another inflationary token, and here we are making dexes But we know that. I mean, and that's the beautiful part of this is that we've learned from our mistakes. This is going to be a recurring theme, and it makes it so much more powerful. So Sparkler was the first step in that, where we knew that we needed to address the runaway inflation, and we had a plan for that inflation from day one, and that plan was to incentivize people to lock up their emissions token, so in our case Spark, in Sparkler to earn a portion of real revenue from the protocol. And this is this age-old dilemma that unfortunately a lot of investors, especially in crypto, don't understand. That it's about delayed gratification. Could you dump on everybody's heads for $100 today? Yes. Or you could lock up this yield producing asset and get $100 a month for 10 years.
Mm.
Obviously, that second option is more profitable, but people don't really still seem to get that. And so are we're taking what we've learned with that, and obviously Sparkler is a little bit more. It was less restrictive, I would say, because you're locking up your Spark and Sparkler, but you're not actually burning it because even though a 10-year maximum stake, obviously 10 years is an eternity in crypto, but at the end of that 10 years, which we absolutely hope to be here in 10 years, you will be able to get that spark back. And so the idea is that we wanted to take it even another step further and truly burn the supply. And that, again, is what we're learning now with the 404s. And really, it's about utility. I mean, you can have the most amazing payouts in the world, but at the end of the day, you have to actually be encouraged to make that decision to burn, the reward token. And because of the way the 404s work, and not only are you guaranteed that liquidity of the NFT if you were needing to sell at some point, but now you're also earning along the way. So it's literally those worlds. And again, we have every intention of using this experiment as a a proof of concept to bring even more bullish aspects back to Spark. And then who knows, another chain that we move to next, again, as we build the franchise, we have all this infrastructure and proven economics in place so that we are all winning.
Right. Thank you. And I love, AJ, that you're always reading the comments as well and the community questions. So you're always able to wonderfully segue into some of the questions that have already been asked. You make my life very, very easy. So thank you.
For sure, brother. I got you.
And I'm also reading here that you guys right now, and someone is saying effectively the Ceto account, even today, you're burning them faster than they are being emitted, which is actually an incredible feat, really, if you think about it, Jay.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, even this morning, I woke up. I took a day off yesterday for the first time in a couple months, just because I was worn out from all the launches lately. And I woke up this morning and looked at the dashboard. I'm like, wait, this can't actually be true, right? Like, is there really no more Ceto left anymore? Like, where's it all going? But I verified it. It's true. Yeah, I mean, that's what's happening. I think, I mean, obviously there's some hype around the 404s and people want to get in. So, they're maybe coming out of some LPs or moving into other LPs. We do have like a burn Ceto token, which I guess that's kind of goes back to what AJ was saying too, that I'd like to maybe clarify. Obviously it'd be tough. It'd be a hard ask, right? To say, okay, just, all the money you're making from your liquidity, just go ahead and burn that for us because we don't want the inflation, right? Without having something to give back for it, right? It's and I guess that's the main problem that we've solved with this 404 is that it's still a liquid asset. You're basically burning Ceto for like a receipt token for burn Ceto, B Ceto, and that has a liquid market. And the B Ceto token can then be swapped for the 404, which also has a liquid market, right? So no one's ever trapped in the situation, but it works kind of like a check valve, right? Like basically the Ceto, the emissions token can only go out, right? Like once you decide to burn, and again, it's totally on you. You're also, more than happy to compound back in or sell. We'd always prefer to kind of dangle the carrot rather than, wield the stick, so to speak. But once you do decide to burn those CETOs, it's not coming back. There's never going to be more. There's never going to be that sell pressure is forever gone on the CETO token. Now, again, you can kind of get in and out with liquid markets on both BCETO and the 404, but it's not coming on the main CETO, which is really the kind of the ingenuity behind the whole thing.
Going to be an interesting social experiment to see delayed gratification versus burning supply, and just really watching what that does to your investor interactions, what that does to the people that are in the ecosystem, how they play the ecosystem, and being able to draw tons of data, I imagine, just from putting those two side by side to see which is more effective.
Yeah, that's the thing though. It's not really even delayed because I mean, to be honest, the 404s are paying out more than the farms right now. I mean, like I mean, ideally that'll probably even out over time. Like the 404s right now have a lot of reflectionary payouts because the launch of the 404 and there's a lot of volume on it. And I think overall it will ultimately kind of level out. But it's like I said, it's not it's immediate gratification for sure. You're burning your CETO, and that's good for the ecosystem. So I guess we've kind of been steering people. Obviously everyone can make their own decisions, but the ideal way to play it is to stay in the CETO farms, which that won't have there's not much sell pressure, right? So your LPs are pretty safe now. And then just continue to take your emissions and burn them and bring them over to CETO, the BCETO, CETO 404, to also earn the real yields on top of your farms.
Yeah, and one more quick comment on that too, MadHatter. And Jake, you can kind of dive in a little bit more technically, probably than I can. But I think another extremely innovative thing that we did, again, not only these reflections, some security measures, some anti-rerolling text. I mean, you can look in the docs. There's about 6 different things that we added to 404s. But the other really cool thing is actually pairing this BCO that Jake was just talking about, which is essentially your receipt token for burning it, we're pairing that with its own LP pool. So what happens is not only does that kind of wall off the sell pressure of BCO, because now it's not impacting CO, the price of CO at all, because had we not done a separate LP pair, then it still would have resulted in sell pressure. But the fact that it's a separate altogether, and you can actually provide liquidity, BCO, ETH liquidity, and earn from that farm as well. I mean, there's just so many little, in the grand scheme of things, it sounds like the little improvements, but when you look at it all together, it is a fundamental difference that I think is having an incredible impact, for sure.
So let's talk a bit about how you would expect people to enter the ecosystem, because there's going to be some people here that have perhaps glanced or tried to read the Git book or the white paper. They are finding it very complex. They hear that there's burning and there might not be CETO tokens left, and that's very bullish, of course. But I know that there are 6 different ways that you guys are funneling fees to people, especially ones that have the Ceto 404 NFT, and that's huge earnings. And Jake, as you said, it's kind of outpaying the farms as it stands. But if somebody wants to get in, can you explain briefly and in the simplest way possible where they should start and what they should be looking to do to really maximize their gains?
Yeah, I can jump in on that one. Like I mentioned in the beginning, the basis of what we're doing is not all that different than any other exchange that you would participate in, right? So all the things that we're doing, that's basically just to try to keep inflation low, bolster the price of all of these tokens, right? Which is doing a fantastic job, right? So I guess the lowest hanging fruit, right, is just pick an LP, right? You can there's stable pairs paying over 100% right now. All 3 of the CETO tokens, CETO US DEX, CETO ETH, and BCETO ETH. I think the BCETO ETH is paying like 800% right now, pretty wild. But even the CETO USDEX is paying like 600%, right? So, you know, there's plenty of opportunity to farm. If that's even too risky for you, you can just jump into there's a ETH USDC pair paying 150% or something like that. So you can all just, like, you know, the first and foremost, you know, find a farm if you're familiar with that that aspect. Grab a farm. You'll be paid in CETO, right? And like I said, you can always just sell those or compound back, or you can kind of dabble in the 404. And in order to do that, there's a little swapper on the 404 page that basically just lets you burn your CETO for BCETO. And then with BCETO, you can actually go ahead and just buy the 404 token, just like you would a normal exchange on any DEX.
Right.
You know, we have seen some people just really interested in the 404, and you know, think that might be a better play long term. I mean, the prices have really just kind of skyrocketed over the first couple of days, so I mean, that's also an option too. You can just buy CETO outright and swap that, you know, burn that for BCETO and just get in the 404 game too. I mean, there's a lot of ways to play it, but you know, at the end of the day, you know, it's really just either farming or trying to kind of play in the market on these 404s.
I like that you mentioned that there's a way to play it, because there's always gamification, especially with stuff that AJ does. And I like personally that there is gamification to it. And you yourself just mentioned, Jake, that you would rather dangle the carrot than wield the stick to get people to play the ecosystem in the way that you think it should be played to really maximize returns. And, you know, if we're honest, burning CETO is going to be best overall for the DEX and for everybody's gains when they're in the ecosystem. So what will you guys be doing to really drive home that people should be trying to look at that option to maximize their gains? Although you're not stopping anybody from selling CETO on the open market if they want to, what you do say is actually this is how you should play it. Are there things that you're going to be doing with the DApp? I know there's going to be educational portions, but how do we really dial into people that actually, if you play it like this, everybody is going to be able to win quite significantly?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think some of the numbers speak for themselves. You know, you can just by skimming the comments and, you know, in the main chats, right, in Discord, Telegram, you can see what people have gotten. You know, like I said, at the moment, the 404s are paying out really well. So, I mean, that's kind of enough, I think, to kind of sway people. And also, too, worth noting, like we're still finalizing some of the automation for the 404 stuff for the different earnings. I guess maybe now's a good as time as any to kind of go into some of that gamification. You know, we have about 6 primary revenue streams. You know, the 404 reflections, obviously. You know, swap fees, the arbitration bots, the vaults, the bridges, and soon to be the perpetual futures, right? So essentially each revenue stream has a corresponding NFT, right? They're different sea creatures based on, you know, Manta Pacific is a kind of a sea based theme, right? So each one has a different NFT, right? And the way that it works is, you know, you can buy the 404s, but it's totally random which NFT you will wind up getting, right? So again, that plays into some of the gamification. You know, people want to re-roll or buy more. Even like I said, even just holding them, you get additional. You know, some of the rewards are paid in the 404s. So just by sitting and holding, you're winding up getting more of them, potentially having a chance to get some of the more rare. You know, the hydras, for example, are give you access to the perpetual futures revenue. And for example, there's only 250 of those, as opposed to something like the fishman. There are maybe two or 3,000 of those, you know, for the swap fees. You know, so, you know, part of it's playing the game. You know, getting people interested in what we're doing, and finding those better, you know, the different revenue streams. But I think the ultimate goal, ultimately, like, it doesn't, you know, the farms are paying well. Even just having a bunch of the Krakens, which are just the swap, just the reflections from the 404s. You know, there's no real loser there. You know, I mean, you're still, even at the lowest tier, you're still doing pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and to back that up to MadHatter, I know that a lot of people make a comparison of the best advertising is a green chart or a green candle. Well, we feel that's also the same way in terms of yield, meaning, the interest will always follow where the best yield is. And I think once we finally, I mean, again, it's only been live 3 days. So even some of the revenue streams haven't even kicked in yet. Like Jake was mentioning, the perps, the vaults. Once we start seeing these, the revenues start flowing into these specific 404s that are meant to earn those revenue streams, it could be extremely lucrative just to buy Ceto and re-roll your ass off till you get a gold or a legendary or a particular a kraken that only is eligible for a certain reward. So that whole gamification and use case, we haven't even seen that happen yet. So I mean, again, it's exciting to think about that because yeah, you may burn $1,000 re-rolling, but now you've got a gold legendary that is one of only, like Jay said, 250 total. And because it's a lot less rare, that means if, as long as you have one, you're getting a hell of a lot more of the share of the rewards. And that's another really cool thing that expanded upon Sparkler. Again, just to bring it full circle, allowing the 404s to actually individualize the revenue streams, that is another major step forward because Sparkler is just one big pool that you're receiving overall. So now it gives even more flexibility to people that only want to earn in certain areas, for sure.
Right. Great. Thank you. What's your relationship like with Manta and the communities there? One of the things that was very interesting learning about Spark Swap and what you guys were doing on Pulse is that actually the communities were quite tight knit and demanded a certain kind of output from you over X amount of time before the real big hitters would come in and cover you. So what's it like with Manta, and what can we expect in the future from their communities and the people that cover that chain?
Yeah, that's a great question. Manta again is a fairly new chain, and again, part of this their technology, that because they have this they're built on some of the TIA data availability. It allows them to operate at a much more cost-effective in a much more cost-effective manner, which ultimately they're able to pass a lot of that on to their communities in ways of airdrops and liquid staking type of things. Um, we have been very busy just trying to get our feet in the door and getting our products going. But we are in talks with the foundation themselves to be added to their ecosystem, adding additional perks for airdrops incentives and things like that. So it's definitely something that we're interested in working on with them directly. But I think also too, at the end of the day, as much as we want to break into the Manta specific, networks, I think, the degens like to follow APRs, right? Like we all know that. If you have a good product, like I said, we went to Manta for some specific reasons. But I think people are happy to follow it as long as we have infrastructure to get them there and get them off, and it's a safe product. I think really that's the heart of the argument.
Great. And I know, AJ, you're always looking for those relationships. I'm certain that you are always going to be on the hunt to see if there's someone out there that is a big hitter and perhaps wants to cover you. And if there can be a relationship formed there to get that, you'll certainly go after it if you.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, again, it's back to if it isn't broke, don't fix it. Meaning, we took the same sort of concept with Pulse Chain. I mean, we're finding this niche, and most successful businesses operate in niches, and we've been able to target these smaller chains that are great chains. Technically speaking, EVM compatible, fast exposure to ETH or other, up and coming, blue chips, and and really provide the infrastructure that these chains need with an out-of-the-box solution. And that, that is more of a factor, and Jake can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's more of a factor in us determining where we go than anything else, because now we're able to gain incredible market share. We have very little competition, especially at the caliber that we're able to develop at. And we have a community that we just keep growing and bringing with us. I mean, this is one more point I wanted to make, especially in terms of our merger with Dex Finance. Everything we built with Spark and everything else, One Dex, EMP, every new chain that we go to and every new sister project that we roll out, that now gives exposure to a whole nother audience that never knew about us or never even could participate in the platforms that we offer. So it is this snowball effect, and as long as we continue to build, which again Jake and I and the rest of the team, we're never going to stop building. And as long as there's users in crypto, which I think we're all in agreement that we're at the bottom of that hill, I think that is just such a great roadmap for what we have coming.
Yeah, and also, with the community element that you just mentioned, I say one thing that's been very interesting about this particular CEE is I haven't had to filter a single question from the audience in to the conversation, because you guys have a couple of people that are in the crowd that are answering all of the questions before I can even read them, which is incredible, really, and that doesn't happen very often. I think that's a testament to who you guys are surrounding yourselves with and the kind of communities that you're forming. You've got a ton of very informed people that are more than happy to answer questions, and non-confrontational too. There's some really lovely answers. People are very quick at answering, and I love that. And I think that will be a real strength for you guys as we really kick off into the bull run and things grow fast.
Yeah, I would just
100%.
definitely like to second that, man. We we've always, both EMP and myself, Dex5, we both had really strong communities. And absolutely big shout out to those guys that are always there helping. But definitely, each time we expand, we're acquiring, people with the same like-minded mentality, that really just want to help educate and further on the projects, and that's absolutely a testament to the communities that we have and the direction that we're going.
Yeah, I mean, it's great because from my point of view, it allows me to try and have a conversation that might simplify something that seems less. Really gives you guys the opportunity to talk about things that are bullish and that you're excited about. And one of those things that we've mentioned is the 6 earning potentials. And I know we've kind of thrown out there what they are a little bit, but can we talk about kind of in a bit more depth what those earning potentials are and what it means for the ecosystem?
Yeah, of
I'll let
course.
you take that, Jake. Yeah, that's more your department. You're in the weeds. I mean, half of them we haven't even rolled out yet, and we're already seeing some incredible numbers. So yeah, go ahead, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, so some of the base ones are definitely locked in, right? The most what's non-rare, the largest portion are the Krakens, right? Those are the reflections, right? And again, even those are paying out really well, really well right now. But after that we have swap fees, right, which are standard for every DEX, and volume's been really good. So those will be paying out. We also have the sharks, which are part of our bridge network, right? Which obviously we've kind of brought over from Spark and BNB on Pulse Chain and BNB and Arbitrum, right? So again, we've already kind of done, we have a strong base for those. The sea serpents are our arbitration bots. Again, something that we've kind of mastered over the last year. And I guess quickly I'll touch upon this one. It's funny because a year or two ago, it would be like it would be kind of a no-no to talk about your bot revenue, right? Like, it's had a negative connotation to some degree, primarily though because people are used to bots as like front-running sandwich bots that are pulling out liquidity, right? But in this case, especially having your own DEX, it's almost a necessity. I mean, it is, right? Like we have a ETH USDC pair. If someone goes and buys $1,000 worth of ETH, that means that our price of ETH is going to be more than it is on another chain, right? And we want to have normal priced ETH, right? We don't want lower priced or higher priced ETH, right? So our most of our bots just basically keep price parity. We use them all the time with our stable pairs, both on Manta and Ceto Swap, and also on Spark Swap, to keep the price of SDI and US DEX, which are supposed, meant to stay at $1, right? So, again, things like this, you don't want a stable coin that's 10% above market, right? And we've had a lot of success with the bots, just on like I said, just on something that kind of has to be done anyway. So we'd rather give those rewards back to the community rather than having other people, someone's going to do it whether we like it or not, right? Because there's money in it. We would rather keep the bad, the bad actors out and do it all of ourselves, and give that back to the community. So that's another one. And then the next two, the most rare ones are the Godzilla NFTs. Those will get, there's only 500 of those. Those will get part of the vault revenue once we deploy. Those are coming later this week. And then lastly, the Hydras, like we mentioned, there's 250 of those. Those would give holders access to the perpetual DEX, probably launching the following week. But again, those are live on SparkSwap right now. You can check them out. I think we've done a really great job of kind of simplifying decentralized perpetuals. I mean, if you've ever played around with them, whether on a centralized exchange or even in DeFi, they can be really complex and difficult UIs, and we've kind of taken out a lot of the fluff, but left in all the functionality. Let's say very easy to use, a lot of flexibility in what pairs we can offer. So I'm sure we'll probably actually be back at some point soon for a dedicated perp AMA. But yeah, just kind of getting rolling on those, and we're expecting big things out of that as well.
I hope you are back, and I will make sure I have even harder questions in store for you. I like that you mentioned the bot. And sorry, AJ, I know you unmuted yourself, so I'll shut up and let you speak in a second. But I like that you mentioned the bot. I've heard you mention that they are non-predatory, which is great. And like you said, they do get a bit of a bad rap, and you've created some arbitrage opportunities for yourselves that feeds back into giving back to the people that matter, and they are your investors. When it's very much an ethos that if your investors win, you guys are going to, the whole ecosystem does well, you do well. And I think that's a very smart move. And I think bringing that bot in to complement what it is that you're doing and ensure that you make sure that no one is trying to front run you, and actually you can give back to the communities is really bullish and strong.
Yeah, what's funny is we started working on bots, and I guess just to give you a background too, bots are not the easiest market to get into. There's a lot of competition, especially on bigger networks, right? Like on Uniswap. Like you can't just go in thinking I'm going to build this bot and have it outperform, these guys that have been working on computers since MS-DOS, right? Like these guys are really sharp. They have a lot of money behind them, and they know how to play the system. They know how to make these bots work. So we have spent actually quite a lot of time perfecting the bots and making sure they're super efficient. Not the bots. I mean, the long and short is the bots are almost guaranteed revenue, right? They don't they're programmed so that they can never lose money. And because of the way that we've kind of injected them into our ecosystem, we've actually funneled out any other bot that potentially could be there to our or take our opportunities. And it's funny you mentioned the predatory bots. We started just wrapping our head around the bots. Obviously we had our own bot system when we had an old Tomb fork back in the day, and one of it, which was our US DEX token, was a stable coin. So we had to keep this. We had to keep the price pair. We had to keep it at $1. But we were on BSC at the time, and we found that we were able to keep the price, of course, but the bigger problem for us was not even on the stable pair, was just on a regular token. Just literally every 20 minutes, someone would complain that a predatory bot came and sandwiched them, and they lost a bunch of money. You know what I mean? So this was at the heart of what we wanted to do. I mean, obviously there's functionality that we need to keep price parity, but ultimately we want to make a safe environment for our investors. So we came up with this like kind of anti-bot, ironically, came up with this anti-bot measure to keep the bots out. And then we realized, well, hey, as long as we're keeping the other bots out, we might as well, take the profits that those bots were going to take and kind of push them back to the community.
Yes, thank you. AJ, do you want to jump in? Because I know you.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. I sorry, I know I keep muting and unmuting to try to keep the background noise, but no, I think Jake covered it all. I mean, I could not agree more. And again, I mean, at the end of the day, it's about volume, and as long as we have volume through our protocols, that is real yield coming to everybody. And I know again, we cover a lot of the same topics in our CEEs here, but real yield really is the key, narrative, I think, of this next cycle of DeFi. And, back to bring this whole AMA today full circle, it's about actually getting away from that inflation. And, that is the whole point of what we've done with the 404s, what we're implementing, with both Spark and now Ceto, and getting away from inflation and prioritizing real yield. And if we can do both of those things, which we are, literally the entire community can win, and that is all part of our main goal, and has always been our main goal. And so, yeah, I'm excited.
We do tend to cover the same topics. It's interesting. It's because you guys are building in a clever way, that you're building similar things that has a running theme that can be recognized even if you're on another chain. And I think that's a smart way of approaching this. And like you said, it's these incremental changes that can make a massive difference, which means that the amount of questions that can be asked are limited. But actually, by asking the same questions perhaps over X amount of periods of time, we get a really unique insight into how you guys are growing, how you're developing, where you're learning, and what you're implementing to really build out. And that for me is fascinating. With that in mind, you guys must have found somewhere along the way something that you didn't realize was going to be a problem, quickly realized it was, and you needed to plug it. Can we talk a little bit on what one of those things might have been?
Yeah, I can.
Go ahead, Jake. Yeah, and I'll chime in.
I don't. It's funny. I don't think it's probably not as how do I put this? It's not quite as defined. Like it's not like, oh, we ran into this massive problem. I mean, the big problems we knew about, right? Inflation we always have in our mind, right? Investor security we always have in our mind, right? It's little things that kind of come up, like I can't tell you how many internal discussions we had on this 404 that were like, we could do this, but then we knock this out of whack. We do this and then we knock this off. So it's really like the way I always say. It's funny. Someone asked me a previous AMA that something to the effect of like, like, we appreciate that you guys kind of have a plan and you don't just put a white paper out. And it's absolutely true. Our dev team, we have a large dev team, and we're able to spread out and have different groups working on different projects. But everything is very organized and planned out. We never just like slap a white paper or a docs together and say, okay, we're going to build this. It's actually like quite the opposite, where we formulate like a development plan first, and then we kind of go through all the steps, and it's like a couple weeks of planning, maybe more, depending on the complexity of it. And then we get into actual development, and it goes from testing on a beta, a dev environment, to like a staging environment where we can internally test and have live beta testers, and then finally goes to production, which is then where then at that point we add some of the the documentation stuff once it's all done, and we know we can kind of back up what we've said. So there, there's always something, right? We always run into some challenges. But I think the way that we like to approach things, allows us to minimize the impact of those challenges. And by the time we get to something that's, maybe a pain point, it's a matter of like, let's sit down for a day and figure out how we can, tweak this to make it work again, as opposed to, oh shit, we we have to start over on the whole thing.
Yeah, no doubt. I couldn't agree more. And again, that's the cool part of our working relationship is that, with the team that we have now, it is very fluid. I mean, I can remember, we've been working on this 404 idea from literally the day that they, announced this new standard. And I can remember late night talks with Jake where, like you said, well, if we do this, then that might not work, but if we do that, then this might work. And then we come to a point where it's like, holy shit, like this could actually work. And it's the holy grail. And so those are the kind of conversations that get me excited. And we've said it all along, MadHatter. We are the first team in DeFi to openly admit we don't get it right every time, but we can learn from those mistakes or drawbacks in certain areas and apply it to even be more powerful. And again, we're doing that in real time. I mean, there's some things even now that we're learning, even just over the last 3 days, that we say, man, we could even do this on the next iteration and get even better results. So yeah, it's just it's that never-ending process of development. That's what gets me and Jake up in the morning for sure.
I'll actually jump in. I got one clear example that I can answer for you.
Please do.
When we first started thinking about the 404 project, and like I said, Pandora was the first one, right? And they have like a similar base model where they have like 6 different NFTs. Now, each category of NFT is just a colored box, right? So the first iteration, what we were going to do is just have 6 sea creatures and then multiply those out times however many categories. And at some point, we got this idea in our head that said, well, if we're going to do an NFT collection, we should do it right, and we should have 10,000 unique NFTs. And I found out very quickly that was a massive undertaking. There was a couple of very long nights where I was, getting these images together, and then finally realizing that, oh shit, all of these have to have metadata, and I have to go through them again. So definitely a few sleepless nights where I kind of look back saying, hey, maybe we should have done it differently, but it all works out, and I think we're better off for it in the long run.
Those are the best ways to learn, though. Trial and working through something, realizing it's not working for you, and then trying to pivot in a different direction. AJ, you mentioned something, and I know I ask this often too, about volume. And you obviously needs volume. One of the things that I'm noticing in the comments, and I can see that Jaded Emperor has mentioned Pandora, and that the 404 tokens that they have are now over 10K. If you're a front runner in this, the possibility for especially price appreciation with something that has utility like you guys have is going to be huge. Are there any unique angles that you aim to market this with? Because volume won't come from anything other than, of course, you guys leading by example. That's going to be the main element, because if you don't have something that leads by example, no one's looking at it. But you're also going to need to get the word out there. And I know you're an AMA machine and you're able to do these non-stop. But is there anything else unique that we can expect from you that's going to really reach some of these audiences?
Yeah, no, 100%. And that is the next iteration. I mean, again, for the reasons that we do these CEs with you, the established communities, is important to start kind of get a foundation. But now we can leapfrog, for lack of a better word, into other communities and other spotlights. So yeah, we have an AMA train that we have fueled up. The coal is in the hopper, and we are going to be doing not only an entire AMA series for Ceto, but also for EMP Fusion and, like Jake had said, the Perps platforms, both on Manta and on Pulse. So we have a lot of momentum behind us, and that's another really cool part. And I know I mentioned it earlier about having a whole new audience where even on Manta alone. I don't know. I think Jake has been doing some voodoo magic. But Jake, we have been the number 1, 2, and 3 trending on Manta for like since the day we launched, right? It's pretty insane.
Yeah. Like I said, we've been flirting with the 3 spot overall, and then the two pairs, the normal Ceto pairs have been 1 and 2 consistently for 3 or 4 weeks now almost. Now that the 404 is out, that's been, trending in the 4 or 5 spot. So, I think it's just a testament to, the community that we have behind us, the products that we're pushing out. I think people, I mean, like you said, that's the biggest driver is being able to see that on the charts, being able to see the trending spots. It's just, it's validation that what we're doing is working, and we hope to keep those spots.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
doubt, and that really plays into the education piece too, Mad Hatter, and we excel at that. We first we have to build it, and then we have to show everybody why this is a better solution. And I think once we do that, then that's when the stars really align, and you do get, 5-figure price for sure.
I think what's also very interesting is that by leading by example, you're only perhaps, one super successful event away from being a household name in this particular space. And once that happens, every single part of the entire ecosystem is going to grow along with whatever it is that has really taken off and been successful. Because zero downtime, right? It's never happened. You're slowly building out in a way that's done right, which is showing people that it works. You say, as you'll openly admit we don't always get it right, and of course the price on things can fluctuate. I mean, we look at the price of Spark; it's come down. It's now headed back up, and it's probably one of those things that will recover very nicely. But of course, like I say, if this is massively successful and you've now really brought in a brand new token, given it some utility that no one else has, in a way that no one else has, it will only be a matter of time, I think, before people say this team is someone we really need to look at, and they really start flowing into all of the ecosystem as a whole.
I love it. No, that's such a great point, and I think it's powerful to end and kind of start wrapping it up on that. And something that, again, Jake and I talk about at night a lot on our one-on-one calls. It's like, we put so much effort in. We have been building our asses off for 2 years. We have really tried to do right by the community at every single turn. And now, to your point, Matt Hatter, it feels like we're on that precipice of maybe finally winning. And again, I say that facetiously because we've been winning the whole time. But the whole idea is, yes, that we are right on the cusp of, I think, really getting the attention that we all want and deserve for our communities. And to that point as well, we've also kind of teased the idea of eventually moving into a cross-chain conglomerate where we do combine all of our platforms into one giant, behemoth. And then at that point, we really will be competing with the Uniswaps and the 1 inches and and the sushis of the world. So yeah, that's all part of the plan for sure.
Yeah, I'm really glad. I'm glad you brought that up and can kind of see that. It's funny. I've had some in my communities. I've had some minor pushback, and I know AJ probably has had the same kind of effect. With his communities. Sometimes people worry that like maybe the focus is being shifted somewhere else, or the time is not being put into some of the primary products. And I had to kind of sit everyone down and say, listen, guys, like this is not us abandoning something else. This is not we're not leaving for something else. This is to build a bigger net so we can catch more people and get more people in the ecosystem. And honestly, I've been saying this. I finally started. We finally started putting some money into marketing, and obviously linking up with AJ and his team. We've done a lot more, front-facing kind of stuff to get people involved. But that's only now after all the products have been built. For the last 2 years or so, building in the bear. I just kept saying, like, listen, guys, like if you build it, it'll come. Like we just need to build good products first before we waste money on marketing. We've all been, in previous years, we've spent hundreds of thousands on YouTube videos that were like really good, for a short burst, but then, it fizzles out. It's a pump and dump, and that's one of the things that we wanted to avoid this cycle. And, like AJ mentioned, it's all really coming to fruition at this point. And, now we can cast a bigger net, and we have bigger communities that can all kind of share in that and use all the services.
Yeah, for sure. It's a balanced scale, and you've got reputation in building out products that do extremely well, that has a constant feed of sand dripping into one side, bumps in the road that are few and far between that of course drip some sand on the other, and at some point that scale is going to tip very heavily in your favor, I think, and I'm very excited to see when that happens. Gentlemen, it's been over an hour, as AJ said. It's been a good long conversation. I think we'll start to wind it down now, so AJ can also get a bit more rest. And rest that voice, because I'm sure he's going to be on a lot of AMAs. Is there
Thank you,
anything
brother. Yeah.
My pleasure. Is there anything that I should have that I haven't in this particular conversation?
I'll just mention a few last points maybe on some of the 404 stuff in regards to emissions and rewards. It's actually amazing that we've had such success with it only being, I mean, it's live and everything's working properly. At the moment, we're doing kind of manual distributions of the 404 reflections. And again, like I said, those are paying out like 4 to 5% daily just on the reflections alone. But if you are in, if you are in the, in those tokens or any other pairs looking to get in, just note that it's only going to get better from here. We ran into a little last minute UI issue where that the upper tiers of the 404s, like as you get into the different revenue streams, for example, like the Fishman NFTs pay out in the swap fees. Which essentially are just like LP tokens from 6, 7 different LPs. So there was a little bit last UI stuff that we had to do in order to be able to actually not only see all those different LPs, but price them all out properly, and then allow people to claim for them. So we are just getting through our last bit of automation. Those will be ready. That'll be ready in the next few days. But in the meantime, we are every day or a couple days or day or two, we're pushing out manual distributions of the reflections. So more of that'll be coming, as well as the actual revenue streams themselves. And another one more last point, I guess I'll make. Some of the comments looks like they're talking about the third party exchanges. Right now they're on Element, but because of our kind of our unique reflection model, we're not 100% able to guarantee that those will protect you from burning if you move one or the other. So we are adding a official locker, basically, where you can put your rare NFTs in the locker to make sure they're held within your possession. So again, if you are participating, stand by for additional rewards, the real revenue streams. More revenue streams coming, and again, if you have any of the rare ones, just kind of hang tight. I wouldn't do too much buying and selling. Well, you can always buy; they won't burn from that. But maybe hold off on the selling until we get the official locker up, so you can protect those.
Yeah, no, and I would just reiterate all that. We like I do need to rest my voice because we have our own AMA tonight. We still are doing our biweekly AMAs through EMP that now covers all the entire franchise. And we will be doing one-on-one walkthroughs. Jake has some awesome tutorials that we've done on how to buy, how to get involved, and that's again, the call to action is just don't get overwhelmed. Even though this is new tech and we're experimenting with some very, innovative economics, at the end of the day, Ceto is still a yield farm. And so, as long as you can know how to add liquidity, what should be a fundamental skill that you have as a DeFi user, anyway, then you can get involved and start experiencing some gains. So yeah, just join our socials. We'll be around. We've also intentionally kind of slow rolled this launch as well, which has been a big part of the success we had at Spark initially. I think sometimes people like to overhype the launch, and then you kind of see a pump and dump sort of situation. So we've really organically grown and are rolling this out bit by bit so that we do see that prolonged, up and to the right that we all like to see. So yeah, I just really appreciate the time, MadHatter. Much love to you and David and the entire Pillars community as always, brother.
Thank you so much. Gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's always a pleasure having you in. It's been a great conversation. Like I said, it was a fascinating one for me because I was learning just as much as everybody else. And yeah, like AJ said, don't get overwhelmed, because actually when you really start to dig into it, it might seem complex, but it isn't. And there are plenty of ways to earn. And just a quick shout out to Gannon and Jaded Emperor. I can't tell you enough how much having somebody that's in comments answering questions really helps a conversation like this not only flow, but it allows people in real time to understand what's happening. Some people couldn't necessarily hear us because there's issues with Discord, but also we might be talking so much and throwing so much information out there that they want to be able to run things. So you guys really put up, because that is going to set this particular project and the entire ecosystem as a whole apart from any others, because there aren't many communities that really jump in like you guys do and answer questions. Giveaways happening now. You've got to be in the Ceto Swap Discord, which is thrown into the community questions. I'll let you both go. Guys, thank you so much for coming. It's always a pleasure. Thank you to everybody listening, and I really look forward to the next one soon.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Absolutely.
All right, cheers, everyone.
Take care, everyone.